Hello, dear friends. This is one of my favorite topics because I am a lifelong Hindophile. I was a disciple of yoga teacher Ramiro Calle, and years ago I attended a summer course on India at the Complutense University, where one of the speakers was Fernando Sánchez Dragó, whose books inspired me to travel to India several times. Opinion piece: Indian Mysteries. See India and I. Pilgrimage to the sources. I want to see the face of God. Mother India is very tender. Reactivation of old vortices. Connected with the Agartha network. Preserved ancient knowledge. Preserved the mystery of the goddess. It was part of an Atlantean colony. It survived the burning of Alexandria. Hindu temples hide great treasures. The Taj Mahal hides a great secret. It would be a receiver of energy from the central sun. Let's start. The traditional culture of India has preserved deep, ancient and valuable knowledge, which was miserably lost in the West with the sinking of Atlantis, the burning of the Library of Alexandria, and the religious persecutions. The oldest texts in the world are preserved in India, older than the frustrated Library of Alexandria. This is why Westerns are so fascinated by Eastern philosophy, ancient architecture, and all exotic forms of art. India was invaded by other peoples throughout its history, but it always conquered the conqueror, slowly, and integrated it into its culture. The supernatural power of India stopped Alexander the Great, but not the mother power of the British Empire. However, Gandhi worked the miracle with the peaceful independence of India. This fusion of cultures, so opposed and disparate, has given rise to modern India that disputes its economic power with the Great China. Orientalism. See China and I am going to the east to find my bearings, or I want to see the face of God, said the hippies who traveled to India on the magic bags from London or Amsterdam in search of the wisdom and the spirituality that was missing in the West and ended up in Kathmandu or on the warm beaches of Goa in search of paradise lost. Stepping foot in India, you feel a sense of familiarity, like having returned home. Jesus also made a pilgrimage to India in search of the sources of wisdom, but he had problems when he defended the poor and criticized the unfair caste system because he had a very big heart. The great writer Octavio Paz, Nobel and Cervantes Prize for Literature, who was Mexico's ambassador to India from 1962 to 1968, discovered great analogies between Mexico and India in his essay Vislumbres de la India, where he describes the cultural, artistic, political, and philosophical that India has left in his experience. Both countries are shaped like an inverted triangle, which is a feminine symbol of the mother goddess, and both have a powerful cultural identities, but their parallels are endless. Pilgrimage to the Sources is the most important book by Lanza del Basto, founder of the Community of the Ark. In it he recounts his first days in India and the different steps he takes to rid himself of the Western man. A high mountain wind blows through the pages of this travel journal, a song to life and mystical knowledge of the universe, an existential revelation of hermetic Hindu keys with some encouragement from Walt Whitman. The Great Mother. India is not a country, but a very tender mother, and that is why she is called Mother India. Hindu music is magical. endearing and seductive, because it envelops you and touches your heart. I missed studying Indology in Spain, as it exists in other European countries, just like Sinology in China, because I would have studied it with great pleasure. In India, alchemy has been kept secret as in the times of ancient Alexandria, and the art of life extension is called Rasayana in traditional Ayurvedic medicine. Their lore is full of alchemist yogis who gained superpowers, but the greatest power of all is enlightenment. Prolonging life has a pure motivation, which is to get more time to gain wisdom and achieve enlightenment for the good of all beings. India is the country with the most minor gods in the world, but also with the deepest metaphysics called Advaita Vedanta that reduces all diversity to a single origin called Brahman, the same absolute and eternal being that we call God. Shiva is fascinating, Krishna is tender, Ganesha, the elephant god, is familiar and endearing. Hanuman, the monkey god, is very nice. Nandi is the sacred bull of Atlantis. Sarasvati, goddess of knowledge, arts and wits, is the ideal of feminine beauty. But Mother Kali is too terrible for my taste, because blood sacrifices are black magic. India tastes like curries and all kinds of hot sauces. Fried vegetable pakora, tandoori chicken, samosa dumplings, crunchy hollow balls called pani puri or dani puri, lassi yogurt, orange juice, mango juice. It's chyawanprash jam, masala chai, coconut water, betel nut, and the largest variety of flavors in the world. Eternal India is blasting, noisy and tumultuous. Inner India is majestic like the Himalayas, and divine like Mount Meru or Kailash, which is the center of the world. Visiting Varanasi at sunrise is like going back in the time tunnel of ancient civilizations, with people purifying themselves in the Ganges River, which is the source of baptism in the Jordan River. Darkness. During the invasion of Archons at the end of the 4th century, the Dark Forces tried to erase all traces of ancient knowledge to prevent the cleansing of the cosmic darkness, as revealed by the contactee Cobra. That is why they burned the library of Alexandria and destroyed the Gnostic and Manichaean texts. In India, this was the time of the Gupta dynasty, which was beyond the reach of Archon invasion, and this is the reason why many important ancient Indian texts survived, such as the famous Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, not to mention the Upanishads and of the Vedas, and especially the Rig Veda, which is the oldest text. I feel a very special sympathy for the famous Emperor Asoka and his decrees of the Dhamma or universal law, and I have always been fascinated by the great epics of Ramayana and the Mahabharata, or the Great War, of which the famous Bhagavad Gita is part. South India was once part of an ancient Atlantean colony, and the people continued the tradition of ancient knowledge after the Atlantean flood for many thousands of years, where many Pleiadian women anchored the mystery of the goddess. Since the activation of the portal of light, the forces of light are reactivating ancient vortices in India to assist in the process of returning true spiritual energy to the population. His main focus is the ancient temples of the Chola, Chera, and Pandya dynasties in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Many of these temples have a powerful goddess vortex. Priestesses. In many of those temples, the mysteries of the goddess were transmitted to the people by devadasis, or sacred priestesses, similar to those of ancient Babylon. Some of these temples are connected to the Agartha network with underground tunnels, and some of them contain very ancient gold treasures worth hundreds of billions of dollars. This gold is being energetically activated by Saint Germain for the future benefit of humankind. In India, a Devadasi was a female artist who devoted herself to the worship and service of a deity or a temple for the rest of her life. The dedication took place in a ceremony that was similar to marriage. In addition to caring for the temple and performing rituals, these women also learned and practiced classical artistic traditions. Her social position was high, as dance and music are part of the worship at the temple. After becoming Devadasis, women spent their time learning religious rites and dances. Devadasis were expected to live a celibate life, just like the Vestals of Rome, but there have been exceptional cases. Light bulbs. According to Cobra, another focus of the light forces is the sites of Mughal architecture in northern India. The court of Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan was under the direct influence of the galactic central race and was a focal point of the goddess mysteries in Sufism. According to Cobra, the Taj Mahal is currently the most powerful anchor of the energies of the galactic central sun and the galaxy M87 on the planet. Modern architects are studying the Taj Mahal to learn how to cool buildings without air conditioning. Another focus of the light forces is the city of Suzhou in China, where Tang Yanzi ascended and achieved immortality in 1580 and created an essential vortex for that city. The Jesuits entered China through Guangzhou and Suzhou just a few months later in 1580 to suppress that vortex, as they always do. All these vortex activations are giving a strong energetic push towards UFO disclosure. Secret treasures. You can't talk about ancient aliens without talking about India, because it has the greatest cosmic connections in the world, with all kinds of outside races, and it also hides the greatest secret treasures in its ancient temples, such as that found in the temple of Padmanabhaswamy, with tons of gold, just like in the treasure of the Lord of the Rings. The Hindu temple of Padmanabhaswamy has 7 vaults. 6 were opened and found around $18 billion in treasure. Inside it houses an enigmatic sealed iron door guarded by 2 giant cobras that no one can open. An access without access, which defies scholars and treasure hunters, since no one could open it up to now. In 2011, the Supreme Court of India began the procedures for the opening of all the vaults, and there they found, among other treasures, gold objects, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, crowns, and even chains of precious metals, which are calculated for approximate value of $22 billion. However, the contents of Vault B, as it is commonly called, is still a mystery. The reasons why it remains closed are several. On the one hand, the door is made of steel of an unknown thickness and does not have any type of obvious device, such as a button or a mechanism with nuts or screws, as the other 6 did. The other reason is more legendary. The famous steel gate is protected by 2 giant cobras. According to local mythology, this is interpreted as an omen of disaster to befall anyone who dares to open it. The monks in charge of the door assure that it cannot be opened by any means or by any person, and that in fact at present there is no one in India or in the world who is capable of opening it. According to them, it can only be opened by a very powerful and circuit man, like the ancient yogis, through the chanting of sacred mantras. The sages who got it wanted that if it were opened with modern technology, this would unleash not only a personal tragedy for the author, but a great natural disaster would hit the planet. Reset News. Max Cedar says it was pretty quiet over the weekend. There is misinformation everywhere, good and bad news to keep us all hooked. According to Ranra, negativity prevents white hats from applying VR. Adds that too many people got fed up with continuous false date given in the past for when these events were supposed to happen. According to Puffiness, the wheels are falling off the wagons, and banks are facing shortages, a lack of funds to handle payments. Digital currency is coming into your society, and it will not work as you expected. It will be a while before that is undone. Torham reveals that there will not be a big war involving the superpowers. He says that the coalition is in control behind the scenes and directs Earth towards the disclosure of ED life and technology. Things are not what they appear to be. We are so used to being confused that we cannot recognize the truth when it is openly in front of us. People tend to fool themselves. Fear pushes her into her mind. The problem with having an open mind is that other people insist on always trying to put something into it. You can't control the behavior of others, but you can always choose how you respond to it. This all stems from the enormous amount of information that has been poured out over the last few weeks about VR. None of the dates indicated for its activation have been met. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.